everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and in paying respect to the late great Gene Hackman, I'll be taking a look at some of his most famous movies. And here we'll be looking at possibly his most famous one of all, and that is of course The French Connection. Released back on October the 7th 1971, it had Gene Hackman in the lead role, starring alongside Fernando Rey, Roy Schneider, Tony LeBlanco, and it was directed by revered director William Friedkin. The story itself is first set in Marseille in France, where the notorious drug dealer Alan Charnier plans a shipment of heroin worth $32 million with plans to smuggle it into the United States. A police detective is killed trailing him whilst following the shipment. We then see New York detectives Jimmy Popeye Doyle and Buddy Cloudy Russo in a bar where they see a couple entertaining gangsters and they follow them. They then discover the connection between them and the incoming shipment. What then follows is a relentless cat and mouse pursuit as Doyle and Russo have to go all out to try and catch Charnier. So when we look back at The French Connection then, what we have here is not only a landmark great movie, but it's very much a time capsule, an inception or a genesis into what filmmaking would go on to become within the 1970s. From the outset, the film is a raw, gritty, visceral visualization. You look at the film and you can literally breathe and smell the atmosphere. The real world environment of the smoggy streets, the dark alleyways, the dingy bars and restaurants, all of the graffiti on the walls and the trash-laden open spaces. It's a living, breathing, vivid world that you're just drawn into, and this environment helps keep you compelled to the story. And it's such a reminder of what shooting on actual locations can enhance in terms of a viewing experience, so much more than any green screen utilization that we see far too often in today's movies. The direction, if not shaky cam, does feel as if the camera is constantly moving, it's constantly in motion, almost as if it's literally going to explode at any moment, which gives the film a constant undertone of tension that anything could happen at any point. But this isn't gimmicky or over stylization, it's just real authentic direction, and it's something to be admired, and something that William Friedkin has tried to replicate several times throughout his career since this film, perhaps most successfully with his 80s classic To Live and Die in LA. We then of course have to mention the two most iconic elements of this movie, the first being the unforgettable car chase sequence where Doyle is on the pursuit of Nicole, who is on the train, and Doyle is driving relentlessly under the railway, crashing into several vehicles along the way. With no background music, it's a frantic, chaotic, intense sequence with again the camera constantly moving, but it's not shaky cam, it's just again realism, experience, keeping you on the edge of your seat. We get the constant POV tracking shots as we see the driver zooming in and the traffic that he's got to maneuver his way through, and we mix that then with the close-up shots of Doyle intensely steering in and out of the way, trying to keep control of his own emotions, let alone the vehicle that he's driving. As a sequence, it's exciting, pulsating, adrenaline rush and exhilarating as a cinematic experience. Now, whether you feel that it's the greatest car chase sequence of all time, that's something that's up for further debate. But it's without doubt one of the most famous sequences, and really was the standard bearer alongside what we've seen a couple of years earlier with Steve McQueen's Bullets. And these type of sequences absolutely still hold today over the modern action scenes that we see, which contain far too much soundtrack, quick edits and pyrotechnics, which actually makes them feel less realistic than what we've seen previously within the likes of The French Connection. This sequence itself is definitive movie making without question. And we then move on to the second special ingredient of the film, which is of course Gene Hackman himself. As Popeye Doyle, we have a personality here who, whilst being the protagonist, is abrasive, confrontational, stubborn, racist and absolutely obsessive. As unlikable a protagonist as you will ever see, yet you still watch him all the way just to see what he will say, what he will do, and what method he will use to ultimately get his man. And the movie is elevated every single time that Hackman is on screen. It's a vivid, intense performance, presenting very much that deconstructive protagonist, that hardened, cynical attitude and perspective that would really be the undeniable fabric within 70s cinema. In terms of all of the famous characters, whether it would be Dirty Harry Callaghan or Paul Kersey from Death Wish, And Gene Hackman here is just a screen force of absolute nature, and it's a testament to his legacy. Perhaps this could be his most definitive performance, and that was rightly appreciated by many movie fans during and post this release. And when we look at the release of the film itself, it was acknowledged massively, both critically and commercially. Box office wise, it was a big hit, grossing over $75 million from a meager budget of around $1.82 million. It was recognised amongst the most outstanding films of the year, and it swept the Academy Awards in 1972, winning 5 out of 8 nominations, including Best Director, Best Picture, Editing, Adapted Screenplay, and of course, Best Actor for Gene Hackman. And this role, despite him being in the industry for a while, amazingly at 42 years old, catapulted him to superstardom throughout the 70s, starring in big hits such as The Poseidon Adventure, and of course the magnificent Superman the movie in 1978, followed shortly afterwards with the sequel in 1981. He would then return to the role of Popeye Doyle in The French Connection 2 in 1975, which would see him continuing the pursuits of Charnier within France. And overall, I think it's a very underrated sequel. Whilst not as iconic or action driven as the first film, it still holds up well in comparison and is definitely worth attention. And yes, the first original film still remains iconic and very much instrumental in setting the trend of how 70s movies and cinema would come to be. That gritty, dark, realistic, anti-hero deconstruction that can be seen right throughout the decade. Other iconic films such as Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Dirty Harry, Death Wish. These are amongst the most influential movies of that decade, and you can see the DNA of The French Connection all the way through. So without question, one of the greatest movies in general, let alone the 1970s. A real legacy builder for the great Gene Hackman, without question one of the greatest actors within the 20th century. No doubt about it, The French Connection, a landmark film in cinema. So those are my other thoughts and feelings when looking back at The French Connection from 1971. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any other movies, television series, or any other topics within the entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.